Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling Royalty. Welcome to Give Me a Hole, yeah. And welcome to another Friday night feature. And as you will expect from the title, we are going to be talking about the road to WrestleMania 41. Feels a long way away, but next week tickets go on sale. So the pre-sale will go on Wednesday next week, and then the tickets will officially be on sale on Friday. So if you're going for those combo tickets, which will get you access to both nights of WrestleMania in Las Vegas next year, it's going on sale next week, which is why I'm talking about WrestleMania 41 tonight, because they're already starting to build it. What are we going to see? If you are buying tickets for it, what can you expect to see in the Allegiant Stadium when you are there next year? It feels crazy to be talking about WrestleMania when we're only halfway through, or just over halfway through October. But it's going to be fantastic to see, and what an occasion it's going to be when WWE hits Sin City in 2025. So I thought, what better time to be talking about WrestleMania than just before the tickets go on sale? But yeah, we're hearing different things, and depending on where you get your news from, whether it's people like Dave Meltzer or WrestleVotes, etc., there's lots of information going around already about who is going to be available, who might not be available, counterclaims, all this sort of stuff. So I'm going to ask you straight out. I want to hear in the comments, what are you hoping is going to main event WrestleMania 41 next year in Las Vegas? I want to hear it. What are your theories? What are your hopes? What do you want to see at WrestleMania? What do you want to see in the main event? Because there's some people who don't really like this sort of thing that's been dangled out there at the moment. There's some people who have other ideas. So we'll have a bit of a chat about it. We'll go through the possible contenders. As you can see from the thumbnail, the three that seem to be going, up there in terms of the theories that might be main eventing next year is, of course, The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Do we see a combination of those three? Do we see all three? Is it going to be a triple threat match? I know there's a few people who didn't like the idea of a triple threat match, and they were saying so when we were talking last week about the women's division, and we were talking about whether they could main event a WrestleMania in the future, and people were already talking about not wanting to see this triple threat. So it'd be really interesting to see what people are talking about when we're discussing this specific subject, what we're going to see next year. Mark, our moderator, is in, and he's doing he's doing a lot of housekeeping with some of the announcements and the rumors, keeping us up to date there. Hearing Bryan Danielson's MRI doesn't look good at all. In fact, he's got damage all the way down his neck. I mean, I guess from when he had to retire the first time due to health issues, it was never looking too good, and he's probably been, the style he's doing has obviously been a lot more punishing than it was when it was in WWE, but that's the way he's wanted to do it. I think as long as he's got out of his full-time commitments and still able to walk and in control of all of his faculties, I think he's going to be pretty happy to have done this stint in AEW, and however long it continues, part-time, etc. And before he moves into a backstage thing, fair play to Daniel Bryan. Obviously going to go down as one of the all-time greats, I'd imagine. Motor City Machine Gun, these they're supposed to be tonight, right, Mark? I'm sure you can keep me on the straight and narrow here, but I hear they're supposed to be debuting tonight. That's what the vignettes seem to have been pointing to, if I'm correct. So SmackDown certainly looks like one to be watching. I know they're plugging that Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. Will they get help from anywhere? Jimmy Uso. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how stacked SmackDown is tonight as well. Reports coming out. Apparently, Carlito might be getting a singles push and kicked out of Judgment Day. Taught a lesson. Maybe they want to move away from his sort of comedic role that he's been put into in favor of a bit more straight lace there as well. We've got Daz Reynolds in, who says hell yeah, and asks who will Seth's opponent be. We'll get into that as a potential for what could main event one of them. So we'll get into that as well. Jake is in as well. Good evening, Jake, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. You'll have to excuse me, it's been a long week, so sometimes I forget where people are from. I think it's going to be Rock versus Cody or Rock versus Roman. I really don't think it's going to be a triple threat. There's reasons we could go with a combination here. I think Mark's response, as to Daz, is who Seth's opponent be is Punk. Seth versus CM Punk. And yes, the team being teased by Nick Aldis is Motor City. Be interested to see if they give them like the full name or if they just shorten it, because I think they've had the initials on the vignette, but we'll see. And Jake, finally, so we're up to date. Says Punk versus Seth might main event night 1, but won't main event night 2. Let's face it, when they say the main event, we mean night 2, as it's the end of Mania. Yes. Oh, Jake, what a coincidence! I'm up in Newcastle as well. So did you go to the arena show the other night? It looked like it was a really good card. Great things. Yeah, I was supposed to be going through the PR stuff, but didn't work out. So I hope you had a good night if you did go. But I have a few friends who were there and said it went really well. Anyway, so yeah, we'll talk about it. So a couple of people already mentioned it. Triple Threat was the rumored one, potentially, with these guys all kind of intertwining. Obviously, you can see there The Rock, People's Champ. I know Dave Meltzer originally said that The Rock wouldn't be available for WrestleMania. I think he's refuted that via his social network, his social media. So I would be very shocked if The Rock is not at WrestleMania next year in some way, shape, or form, because they've teased this along the way. You know, obviously we saw just after WrestleMania, The Rock did the whole "can I hold the title just once" sort of thing, and then you can hold mine in the meantime. That was a very sort of strange conversation to be having. I don't think there's any other place that's grand enough to have The Rock and Roman Reigns lock horns, even if Cody is involved or isn't involved, unless it's WrestleMania. So personally, I could see why they would do a triple threat, because it would also potentially protect The Rock. Obviously, he's not a full-time performer. He kind of comes and goes, but in terms of actually stepping in the ring and putting on a match, having this triple threat protects all parties. Like, you potentially can have someone pinned and it protects the person, you know, who can still lose, etc. But I also think it's very strange, you know, if we don't finally get what all the documentaries were released and all the interviews that they've done since said that we were supposed to get The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40, and the plans changed because of outside stuff with the fans and the demand for Cody Rhodes and how it would have looked and the optics behind him winning the Royal Rumble but giving up, etc., etc. But yeah, it'd be very strange if The Rock kind of went down that route. All the work they've done, all the PR, the promos, etc., and then he's just not at WrestleMania. I think it'd be very strange for that to happen. And I get he has all these contracts and obligations when it comes to WrestleMania, to his film career. But I'd be very strange if he's not looking to tie it up, because at the end of the day, we are running out of time when it comes to getting Rock versus Roman when both of them are in good health, when both of them could still go, and it's not going to be like, you know, too bad. We saw The Rock put in a great performance on night 1 in that tag match. And I thought he looked fantastic, in great shape, still obviously can go in the ring. So I'd be surprised if it's somewhere, shape, or form it doesn't happen. That being said, my preference would be to just simply have The Rock versus Roman. I don't need to see any other like combination. It's always felt like it's moving in that direction. Roman versus The Rock, who's the real tribal chief, who's the real boss, you know, and let them just go at it. And it's something that I think the fans have been waiting for a while. We've proved a lot, or had a lot proven to us in Philly this year, and they can still go. But yeah, I'll be very surprised if we don't actually just get Rock versus Roman, and that's the way it's building. Mark says, I think the whole Rock wasn't going to Mania was to test if W still had leakers. Possibly, it does seem like they're trying to like tighten the ship and make things more of a surprise. When it comes to The Rock, he does seem to, like, obviously there's always speculation whether he's going to be there or not, but the actual times he shows up and how they use him, same with Roman, it does feel like it's more out of the blue, which is welcome. I don't want everything leaked to me. If it's supposed to be a surprise, let it be a surprise. Jake says, I think there is a decent chance Rock won't be there. Maybe something has come up acting-wise, but I think it's 50-50. I said this last year before Mania 40, hoping Rock is here next year is a gamble. I do think it is getting to the point where you can't leave it any more years. If you want it at WrestleMania, you're going to have to pull the trigger on that one at some point, because Rock's going to look to wind down. Like, you know, he's not getting any younger. His career in Hollywood is always going to be there now. You know, his commitments are just going to ramp up. You know, depending on what he goes for. We've seen it with John Cena. John Cena's picking up more roles, and he's announced it's going to be his last sort of year next year. So it wouldn't be surprising if The Rock goes out before Cena. So yeah, really think now is the time that they need to pull on that one there, personally. Mark says Rick's not leaving anytime soon. It was also Brian's full. Oh, okay, this is back on AEW. Brian's full choice to lose to Mox, and now all his last matches were against all three members of the Shield. Oh, fair enough, yeah. I think the 1, 2, 3 thing from The Rock was saying to Cody, "I pinned you 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do it again." Could be, yeah. And then he obviously did the sort of thing across the throat, etc. But I'm intrigued to see. Bit of a discussion about whether SmackDown is taped or live tonight. I thought it was taped last week, but it's live this week. Have they not flown back? Is that? I thought they'd already finished the UK tour and they were flying back for tonight. And the one that was shown last week. Otherwise, surely the Motor City stuff would have already leaked out. Or am I wrong? I feel like it would be. I know Kevin Owens has had a big thing on social media this week where he mentioned about like sending WWE a video and stuff like that, where if they don't air it, he'll be forced to air it. But I thought last week was the one that was shown, that was the taped one, and then this week's one is live. Because as I say, the biggest thing was I haven't seen anything on social media about like any footage of Motor City, so I'd be a bit confused if it's taped. I don't know how they've done that. But we'll find out, I guess. Someone maybe confirm that in the chat. The biggest thing as well, I guess, is like whether Cody manages to reach through till WrestleMania next year. Going back to the subject at hand, will Cody still be champion when we come round to WrestleMania? I believe so. I think there's a lot more story to tell. I think we're going to keep seeing these almost like betrayals of people. It looks like Cody Rhodes will be going back into some sort of rivalry with Kevin Owens, with Kevin Owens being full heel again, or justified heel, some may say as well. And I think that eventually will spin off into Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens as well. But then we still haven't even tapped into whether we get Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. So I think there's still a lot of mileage left. And all these people that kind of like, turn their back or betray Cody Rhodes, I think eventually we are leading to the ultimate one will be Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. And I think that might be one for WrestleMania. But we've also got the potential of, we've spoke about it on this show before. Love to see John Cena versus Cody Rhodes for the title as well. Some sort of maybe a semi-retirement match, but Cody Rhodes has always said he'd love to face John Cena and vice versa. I think that'd be a great WrestleMania event. I don't know unless there were plans something special, whether it could main event. But if we are going to see some sort of combination of Rock versus Roman, the way I see that going down is I would rather have Roman versus Rock on night one, purely on the basis that I would prefer to see night two, which is the one that most people consider a main event, as something to push forward into the future. I feel like Rock versus Roman is very self-contained. It doesn't need to kind of be the thing that closes WrestleMania, because it's about their own dominance in their family, and whether Roman is tribal chief or Rock is the ultimate and final boss, that sort of thing can sort itself out on night one, and it's a big talking point. And then you get people interested on the night two with a storyline that's going to push on after WrestleMania, because let's face it, Rock versus Roman can be done in solitary. It doesn't need to keep moving. But I just see that as a thing where I'd rather have Roman versus Rock on night one, and then night two, you give it a chance. And there's many other matches that could go on, whether it be Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton, whether we see something completely different, because the one that's the sort of they're building to, and obviously was rumored that was supposed to happen last year before injuries happened, was CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. We're already getting these teasers. CM Punk's going to go away for probably about a month or so till the Saudi show's out of the way. I think it's something that he morally doesn't want to be part of, and is kind of steering clear of that. So it gives him time to rest up, heal up, and be more of a a big ticket attraction like the likes of Brock Lesnar have been previously, because you want to keep CM Punk special, and and let everyone else kind of be the workhorses and kind of get people to come back, and then you drip feed him in to get people interested when you announce that he's going to be back next week. Same as like Roman Reigns, etc. What we're seeing, Tom Talks Rubbish is in. So you can check out all of Tom's content on YouTube. He likes to interview all the movers and shakers in wrestling journalism, wrestling media. He's got some great content up there as well. So some of the biggest names you could ever think of, go check out Tom's channel. I've done a second one that'll be coming out, I believe, in December or something. So yeah, definitely go check it out. All the guys on Gimme a Hell Yeah have been interviewed. Even Sam's girlfriend's been interviewed as well. As I guess it would be a sort of like wrestling widow. So go check out all the content on Tom. Go subscribe to his channel. He's got some great content for you to check out as well. So good to have you in, Tom. Hope you're having a good start to the weekend. Jake says, speaking of triple threat, I think we might get Punk versus Drew versus Seth at Mania. I think Drew might yet get back involved in the story somehow, maybe costing Punk in the match with Seth or something. I see where you're coming from, but personally, I think it's done. I don't think you want this spreading on for too much longer. In fact, I would personally prefer it if they be completely split up and go on different brands. Obviously, logic would dictate if you have that big a feud and rivalry, you would go at each other. So the logical thing would be to move people away from on different brands. But hey, it's wrestling. It's not that deep at the end of the day. But I think now is the time to let Punk move on, let other things kind of progress. At the end of the day, Punk's not going to have too much, he's not going to have years and years and years. He's going to be looking to, who do I want to lock horns with next? Who do I want to main event, premium live events? Can he win a Royal Rumble? Can he go on to WrestleMania? Can he face Seth Rollins? There's still, a lot of interest in CM Punk versus Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens being a big friend of the Elite over on AEW. So it'd be really interesting to see how they kind of if they can incorporate anything like that, if they're interested in working together. There's a lot that we could kind of look forward to in the sense of who would you like to see versus CM Punk. But could these guys potentially main event WrestleMania 41? I think Seth Rollins, for all the work that he's ever done in WWE, I think he deserves more accolades and start it with a WrestleMania main event. But there's plenty of people who would be able to step into that. CM Punk would obviously relish the opportunity to be able to main event. If he were to win the Royal Rumble, of course, he would have the chance to go for a title. So do we look at Gunther and his belt and what are we doing there? Because Gunther's someone that I think WWE will happily put forward as a main eventer and as a champion for a long time. Or do they swerve us and have him drop the title? But the idea of CM Punk versus Gunther is a very attractive one as well. So there's so many different things that we could look forward to potentially going into WrestleMania season. But I would imagine the next few months are going to dictate where we're going with that. We've obviously got champion versus champion at Crown Jewel coming up in the not too distant future. And then moving on past that, you've got Saturday night main event. You've also got Royal Rumble, which is at the beginning of February this year as well. So I'll be interested to see if WWE announce some last minute thing for maybe like a day one sort of style thing in January. But yeah, so lots to look forward to. And before we get to WrestleMania, but I'll go back to the comments. Make sure you're still telling me what do you want to see on the two different nights of WrestleMania. Do you think we're going to see anything that we've talked about? Is there something I've missed? Do you think we can get a tag team match up in the main event or a women's match as we talked about last week? What is there to get people to come back in? So I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Jake's going back to the whole Drew versus Punk thing. I think it's done for now. I just think because Drew and Seth have a feud, same with Drew having a feud with Punk. Yeah, I think Seth was kind of that one where he was special guest referee, was more to protect Punk if he was to get injured again, and there's an easy kind of out to get Seth Rollins involved, and that was why he was in there at all. But I do think it was kind of done in a fairly natural way, which was quite impressive, and obviously not something that we've been used to previously in WWE. It's not always logical stuff. You got to think Mania 41 is 7 months after Bad Blood. Yeah, so there is time. I get what you're saying. There is time to kind of like pick things back up again in the future, but more for Drew as well. Like Drew did such a great thing, carrying that feud with CM Punk, that Drew deserves something as well. And I think maybe he will go after something like the IC title, or make him, people start to sort of tease him about losing to CM Punk, and he goes off it. I still wouldn't mind seeing him link up with the Gallus boys, and kind of having a big faction, to go out, because we went through a little bit of time where factions were starting to build up a little bit, but it's not something they're used to seeing is Drew McIntyre in a powerful faction. So I think there's loads of scope for Drew McIntyre. It depends which direction they want to go, and I'm sure we'll find that out in the not too distant future as well. Mark says, word going around is Kevin Owens is about to sign a new deal or has already agreed the deal. That's cool if Kevin Owens has, because I think they're starting to use him a little bit more when it comes to the main event, and kind of putting him in with Cody and having Kevin Owens around in that main event scene, or kind of in the background, but like ready to pounce. I think it's great what they're doing, using social media to kind of push this feud with Cody. I think is the right thing. Like, to me, Kevin Owens has always been that sort of like, not underdog, but he's almost been the sort of like the indie darling that people want to get behind, and certain people in the company have never really pushed it too much. He doesn't look like the superstars, he's more of a sort of like normal looking guy that is a brawler and a fighter. And I think they might stumble on a way to be able to utilize him properly. God knows he's had some absolutely awful storylines that he's had to deal with over the years. And I think this is maybe something that suits him, back to the sort of like more of his roots in the guerrilla wrestling and stuff like that. So let's see where he goes with Kevin Owens. But if he has agreed a deal, that's great for WWE. I presume it's great for Kevin Owens as well, and great for the fans. Seth was the ref to protect Seth from injury. Yeah, absolutely. Seth was the ref to... Oh, okay, right, yeah, because Seth was still kind of coming back from it. Yeah, I get what you mean there. I had to double check there for a second. Thanks, Mark. Ryan's in as well. Good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you are. Ryan says, should Rock make an appearance in SmackDown in Tampa December 27th before Netflix on Raw? I think he's more likely to appear on the first one on Netflix. It's going to be really interesting how they run this, because in the US, I think they're showing SmackDown on the USA Network they're back on, and they'll be doing that till 2027. Whereas in the UK, we're getting everything WWE is going to be on Netflix. So it'd be interesting to see how they kind of like start championing that, because it's a big deal, but not in the US. They're only making the big deal about Raw because that's something that's going on to Netflix. So I would presume they'll go really heavy on that first episode of Raw on Netflix. And it'll be something that we will do a sort of feature on what we're going to do. But I guess it depends where the next sort of one is after that. But again, it also depends on the Rock schedule, which it always does these days. So it'd be very interesting to see how much we'll see of the Rock. I would presume when we get to that Netflix era, they're going to kick it off with the likes of John Cena. The Rock will probably be there. They might put a championship match on or something. I'd imagine they'll probably pull Cody on there for a little bit as well. So that will be, maybe they'll do like a day. That's where they do the day one pay-per-view. But again, we can't move too far away because there's still different contracts going on the US side of things. Whether they say it's a big thing elsewhere, let's wait and see. But we're going to call it a night there, because obviously there's a lot of different theories. We go into every single one, but at the end of the day, we're all going to have to sit back and watch as we get closer to WrestleMania next year. Let me know as well in the comments. Are you planning on going to WrestleMania in Las Vegas next year? Because the tickets go on sale next week for the combo tickets, and I'm sure it won't be too long after that the individual tickets go on sale. But speaking from experience, if you are trying to get tickets and you're going to go across for everything, make sure you get those combo tickets in as soon as possible, because that is the cheapest way to do it. It's the most cost-effective way to do it. And also, quite frankly, you're going to want to go both nights. If you're going all the way out to Vegas, even if you're in America, it's obviously like full out on the, across the country for a lot of people on the East Coast. If you're coming from the UK, you're not just going to go for one night. So make sure you get in, because if you get a combo ticket for a decent price, you're probably going to save money compared to if you're getting a one night ticket. So get yourselves involved. Still undecided whether we will be there yet or not. Obviously, we will try our hardest to get out there if we can. But either way, whether you're watching at home or not, there's a lot to look forward to. And we will find out what the main event is going to be, I'm sure, in due time. So, as I say, I'm going to call it a night there. I hope if you're watching any wrestling this weekend, you have a fantastic time. Enjoy it. And if you're doing anything else, enjoy yourself. Have a lovely weekend. Stay safe. I've been Andy. This has been Wrestling Royalty. This has been Give Me a Hole Yeah, and I will see you next week.